Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Fed Flash Face-Off. So glad you could join us. Got a lot of interesting things coming up. I was hoping to do an interview this week, and unfortunately at the last minute kind of fell through, so we don't have that. But we have a lot of other things coming up. We've got mailbag segment, brand new segment for this. Just take some of your messages and emails you sent me, and we discuss some of the questions you ask. We have power rankings. That's every 2 weeks. We'll see how your team has done since 2 weeks ago, since the initial episode of the Fed Flash Face-Off. See what kind of progress they've made. Also, game previews. We're also going to be looking at a lot of the things coming up this next week. News and notes. We're going to talk about a lot of different things, including some of the things going on with the Minnesota Northern Lights. And remember last year we had our little thing come up with the Dakota, the Dakota Ghost Drillers. We're going to talk about that. What happened to them? Where are they at? We'll discuss that. News and notes. So a lot of things coming up in this episode. Stay tuned. Whether you watch just a piece of this or the whole thing, I appreciate it. If you just want to go to a specific section of this video, just go down to the descriptions, click on the chapter you want to see. You can watch from right there. If you don't have time to watch the whole thing, that's okay. I understand. We're all pressed for time. But I do appreciate you watching and tuning in, whether it's a part or the whole thing. All right, so let's get this show started. Time again. It's been 2 weeks, so this year, every 2 weeks, I'm doing this, the power rankings. Last year, I did every week, and it started to get a little redundant. So this year, doing every 2 weeks, and it seems to be working out pretty good that way. So I'm not going to belabor this long because I want to keep this moving along. A lot of stuff on this video. So let's start with number 14. Yeah, it's still Biloxi. Biloxi has won 3 of their last 28 games. That's the situation here. There's some offensive talent. The goaltending is not bad, but until there is some kind of commitment to team defense, I don't see Biloxi progressing. You can't allow 50-plus shots per game every game. You're not going to win that way. All right, so going on, number 13, Indiana Sentinels. They went 2 wins and 2 losses over the last 2 weeks. This is still a very young club. The guys are learning how to gel together. They're learning how to win. Every now and then they grab themselves a win like they did in Topeka a couple weeks ago. Well, 2 wins actually. But it still takes time to build this up. I was talking to Coach Everett Thompson a few days ago, and he said, the effort is there. It just needs to come together, and it will. I believe it will. Needs some more scoring, and it's tough because the top 3 scorers on the team, one's been on IR, and the other 2 went to the SP. So, and you can't begrudge a player for wanting to move up. You can't. So, Indiana's doing what they can with what they have, and considering they're doing well for a first-year club, they're not struggling as bad as some other clubs in the past have. So, all right, number 12 is the Baton Rouge Zydeco, coming fresh off 2 wins, including toppling the Monroe Moccasins, breaking that 18-game win streak. Team defense has always been very good for the Zydeco this year. Their problem until this last week is they just weren't scoring. 12 goals in 2 games. That's very uncharacteristic of the Zydeco, but hey, it's good. Bailey Morissette has been a godsend for this team. It really has had a domino effect, a positive domino effect on the rest of the team and how they perform offensively. So I think they're getting better. I still think there are a few players that kind of need to step it up a little bit. But overall, this isn't a bad team. This team is better than its record. We'll say that. So anyway, Zydeco number 10. Number 12, excuse me. Number 11 is the Watertown Wolves. All these teams, this is where they were 2 weeks ago. As we move up the list, we'll start to get to the teams that flip positions. Watertown, they took 5 points home out of a possible 6 from Danbury. That's good. That's excellent. It broke a 6-game losing streak for them. They're still trying to play catch up, though. The main thing that I grapple with for the Wolves is they just commit too many minor penalties. They spend too much time in the box. It's not for fighting. It's not for cheap shots. It's not for goonery. It's just the high sticking and the slashing and the hooking and the holding. It's that kind of stuff that's getting them into trouble. If they can clean up their game a little bit and play with a little bit more discipline, I think they could take a step up. We'll see. All right, number 10 is a team right above them, Danbury. These teams, I believe they play each other 5 more times, Danbury and Watertown. I believe it's 5 more times. Danbury's been a very streaky team this year. They go through a group of games where they win either all or most of their games, and then they go through another streak where they're not winning. And unfortunately, right now, they're not winning. The loss of Johnny Ruiz is heavy. It's a heavy burden to bear. And I am not going to have any qualms about that with Danbury. Another team that's doing what they can with what they have. Again, it's another young team that they're the majority of them are kind of learning the ropes. They're first-year pros, whatever. Danbury teams in the past have always had a strong veteran presence, and it's not there this year. And so that's hurt them. But they play well. They just need to, I think, work a little bit harder, and it'll translate into wins. All right, number 9. And this is the first team that we had some movement on. All right, dropping 1 place, it's the PD Ice Cats. Now, they went through a streak where they knocked off Athens twice. They knocked off Binghamton. So they were playing well, and then the last game, the wheels came off. I think there's too much of a focus on physicality and not enough focus on skill. You've got a lot of skilled, good offensive players on this team, and I feel like they're being underutilized. That's just my personal take. But they're playing better now than they were earlier this year, but there's still some things that need to come together. They're now they are kind of beholden to the Thunderbirds by 1 game in their schedule. So they're sitting in 5th place on the cusp of 4th, but the Thunderbirds have an extra game, so that kind of hurts. Speaking of number 8 and the Thunderbirds, so these 2 teams basically switched. Thunderbirds coming off of 2 wins over Binghamton. They have now won 3 in a row, playing much better. They're getting close to 500. They're holding down that last playoff spot currently in the Continental Division.
The defense has really started to gel. The only thing I think is missing is a little bit more scoring, a little more scoring depth. If they can start generating an extra half a goal per game, I think that they would make some big leaps and bounds forwards. So they're really not that far off. It's just, after 3 years of going to the finals every year, this has been a tough one for the Thunderbirds fans to take. The team is still a good team, maybe not quite as talented as past years, but still playing well. And I'm seeing, like I said, I'm seeing progress with them. All right, number 7. They've been number 7 forever. I think this is the 5th straight power rankings, which I have in the Bobcats at the number 7 spot. They're just kind of in the middle. They have improved significantly over the last 10 to 12 games. I believe they've won 8 of their last 12. So they're making some steps forward. They have more wins than losses now, so that's good. The offense is progressing. I think it still needs to take a few extra steps forward, but they're doing good. And they got a good tandem in goal with Hussey and Schrum. I think they're doing all right. They're pressuring the number 6 team right now for the number 3 spot in the Empire Division. So, all right, and that is, speak of Scarecrows. Scarecrows, still a good team. Defense, an exemplary team on the defensive end. The forwards play good defense. The defensive men play good defense. Make it easier for the goaltenders. So that's good. But this team should be scoring more often than they are. Right now, they're averaging 3.3 goals per game. They, with the talent that they have, they could be hitting 4 goals per game, and they're just not. Part of that is just a commitment to the team defense, and you don't want to sacrifice that, but you want to find some balance. I think Topeka needs to find that balance to kind of get themselves winning more often than losing again, because for a while they were really on a roll. They were challenging Port Huron for quite a while for second place. And they've kind of fallen back a little bit. So doing well. I mean, they're number 6. Yeah, that's not bad. That's not a bad place to be. But I feel they can improve a little bit. All right. Dropping down 1 spot, and it's no fault of theirs, really. It's Port Huron Prowlers. They were idle last week. The week before, they won both of their games. So they didn't fall back because they're playing poorly or doing something wrong. We'll get to the number 4 team in a minute, and I'm sure you can probably figure out who it is. But Port Huron, there's another team. Great defensively. Need a little bit of tweaking on the offensive end, and they've got the talent too. You've got so many players that could be 20, 25 goal scorers in this league. Again, it just hasn't translated. But Port Huron's solidly in second place in the Empire Division. I don't think that they're unhappy about that. So I don't think they're unhappy with their game. So we'll see what happens the rest of the way. Do they kind of turn it on? Last year, the first half of the season, the Prowlers struggled, and then they just exploded the second half of the year, and they became a real tour de force. So we'll see if that happens again. All right, number 4, moving up, the Columbus River Dragons. This team has been either red hot or ice cold all year round. Right now, they are burning hot. 8 wins in a row. It's the longest streak, the longest active streak in the league as far as winning. And just everything is happening as it should for Columbus. They've got a good mix of guys in the forward position. They can play team defense pretty well, pretty capable. And they've climbed up to within the 10 points now of second place in the Continental Division. So they're just steadily winning and winning and winning, and they're moving up in the standings. So that's why Port Huron dropped. Again, nothing that they did wrong. Is just Columbus is fantastic. Number 3 is the Athens Rock Lobsters. As every team up at the top has done as of late, they've dropped a game here or there. So they're still 2 points behind the Monroe Moccasins. Big games coming up this weekend between the Lobsters and the Moccasins. It's definitely the games to watch. So we'll see what happens. Athens has got a great balance, very well-balanced team. All right, number 2, the Binghamton Black Bears. They seem to have corrected some things. No disrespect to Indiana, but the 2 wins this last weekend, yes, they were over Indiana. But the team defensive play, it's back. They did not give Indiana any chances, any really solid, good chances this last weekend. Very, very few. So the defensive play has picked back up to where it was earlier this season when they were rattling off win after win after win. They hit their bump in the road. That's kind of like what knocked them down to 2 is that big bump in the road. But I think Binghamton's back on track. And then number 1, these 2 teams switched. Obviously, Binghamton was number 1 last time. Well, now it's the Monroe Moccasins' turn to be number 1. Yes, I know they lost their last game to Baton Rouge, but the Moccasins did not play poorly in that game. It's just Baton Rouge just played the perfect game to break that streak. And 18-1 in the last 19 games. Yeah, I'd take that. I'd take that in a heartbeat. The Moccasins, they can score. They can score frequently. They don't give up a lot of offensive chances. They're solid. They got a great balance. Offense, defense, goaltending. The whole team is a solid unit, and they're just humming along. So I think they are well deserving of the number 1 spot for this week. So there is our power rankings again, going from 14 all the way up to number 1. We'll see what happens over the next 2 weeks. We'll revisit here again and see if there's any kind of movement among the teams. All you can do is watch the games and let it all develop and see what happens. All right, moving on with the show. I just want to say thank you so much for watching this. As we transition to the next segment, what I am putting on next, I did this very deliberately. This last week was very tough in hockey. We had Johnny Ruiz go down a couple weeks ago. The fans have rallied. Thank you so much for all of your support. It is greatly appreciated. It's one of those things that happens that reminds you that these guys are playing for the love of the game. Yes, there's the competition. Everyone's trying to be the best. But ultimately, it's all about hockey and family, the game, the community. And one of the things that I was able to witness this last week was a charity game in Binghamton between the Binghamton Fire Department and the Binghamton Police Department. It's a game that happens every year for the last 40 years. It's called the Hart Cup. And just a tremendous time of guys getting together and playing for the love of the game. And yeah, there can be little, feisty moments inside the game, but for the most part, these guys are all serving their community. They're all recognizing each of the players on the ice, whether they're wearing your jersey or the other jersey. They're serving their community. They're giving of themselves or sacrificing of themselves, sometimes with their lives. Last year, one of the players for the Binghamton Fire Department was not present this year because he lost his life in the line of duty. So I wanted to, just as a little perspective, I just wanted to throw on a little clip that I recorded. This was before the game took place, before it got played. Just a touching and somber reminder of the importance of family, friends, community, your city. Very, very important. So I just wanted to put this on, just a brief little tribute to all those who have gone above and beyond, have given of themselves, of their time, of their families, for the rest of us. So as we look at our standings, I'm not going to go through stars because they are listed on the Stars and Standings WordPress page, but nonetheless, I do want to look at the standings because there's a lot of interesting things that have developed, and that's usually the case as you get further into the season. There's some interesting storylines that kind of develop each and every year. So, of course, the big race right now is between Monroe and Athens. And of course, those two teams play each other this weekend. So this is going to be, this is the matchup of the week, although there's a couple of good matchups. So a lot of good games to check out this week. Definitely make sure you do so. But we have 2 points separating Monroe and Athens, as we have for, I guess, a couple weeks now. And Monroe still hanging on to that first place spot by virtue of that 18-game win streak. But Athens, again, just right in that rearview mirror. And points are per game are a little bit lower because there are a couple of OT games involved here. no, 5 of the 28 wins for Athens are in overtime. So those are 2-point wins rather than 3 points. Regulation wins, always remember you get 3 points. So that's what you want to aim for. I mean, you want to win no matter what, but if you can get the win in regulation time, that goes a long way. So the other really interesting thing is, by virtue of their 8-game winning streak, Columbus has gotten a lot closer to Athens now, just 10 points behind. So that's 3 regulation wins plus a point. Whereas before, just a couple weeks ago, there was like almost 20 points in between either way. And that has changed a little bit. There's a 26-point cushion between Twin City and Columbus right now. And again, they're getting a little bit closer to Athens and Monroe. Now, Athens and Monroe have both played 34 games. Columbus has played 37. So that plays into these two teams' advantage a little bit as far as having opportunities to gain points and stave off the charge that the Columbus has going on right now. Of course, the other really big matchup this weekend is going to be Twin City and I almost said Thunder City. Twin City and PD. 1 point separating the two. Now, as we look at that, PD has played 1 more game. 33 games played. Twin City has played the fewest games of anyone in the league. Just 33 games played. So they've got a lot of 3-game and 3-day weekends coming up, including this upcoming one. And so we'll see what happens with this, but this is going to be very interesting as we go along in the season. 23 games left, 22 games left. So there's still a lot of time to see what happens there and see if one of these can kind of assert themselves into that 4th place spot and get a little bit of a padding or an advantage. The Zydeco, they're coming close. They're getting a lot closer. All right. In the Empire Division, Binghamton, they've been running away with the division for a while now, and it's a 32-point edge. Although Binghamton has played the most games of almost anyone. Binghamton and Danbury have both played 38 games, so they only have 18 left each. So there's a little bit of time for the Prowlers and Topeka and Blue Ridge to try and climb a little bit. Port Huron and Binghamton, of course, they're meeting this weekend, so that will be very interesting to see what happens there. Prowlers trying to hang on to that 2nd place spot. There is a 7-point cushion between them and the Scarecrows. Scarecrows and the Bobcats are close, but again, there are games in hand for the Scarecrows that kind of helps them out. They've played 34 games total. The Bobcats have played 37. So we'll see if Topeka can kind of get back on track. I wouldn't say they faltered. They've been struggling a little bit as of late. 4-5-1 in their last 10. The Bobcats have won 7 of their last 10, points in 9 of their last 10 games. So yeah, they've been able to close that gap, and they've also been able to separate themselves a little bit from Danbury and Watertown, who are still kind of neck and neck with each other. So it's really interesting there. Indiana, they've stepped back a little bit. They had a couple wins 2 weeks ago against Topeka. Last weekend, they lost to the Black Bears. Now, Indiana, they're staying on the road. They've been staying on the road this week. They had a bus breakdown in Binghamton. Fortunately, they were already at the venue. So it's not like they were stuck in the middle of nowhere. But they were waiting for a part for the bus. And the decision was made, rather than travel 10 hours back to Indiana and then get back on the bus just 2 days later and head back to Danbury, where they're playing this weekend, the decision was made, you know what? We'll schedule some practices here on the road. We'll just stay in a hotel, and rather than travel back and forth, A, it gives the bus time to get fixed, and B, it's a lot less travel and a lot less sitting around on the bus for the players. It's only like 3 hours to Danbury from Binghamton, so they made that decision to stay out on the road, and that's cool. So we'll see if that helps them out this coming weekend. That's going to be very interesting to see. So there's some of our kind of underlying storylines that are happening with the standings. Again, as we get closer and closer to the playoffs, things get mighty interesting, especially in places where there's a very close race, like here and here and here. So, that makes our preview segment a little bit more poignant. All right. Awesome games coming up this weekend. Really awesome matchups. Let's start with the big one. This is the matchup of the week. The Athens Rock Lobsters, the Monroe Moccasins, first place in the Continental on the line. And the Moccasins playing at home, which is good for them, good advantage for them. The previous advantage has gone to the Athens Rock Lobsters. They've met 6 times already this year. Athens has won 5 of those games, outscoring Monroe 27-20. So not a big edge. Most of these games are close. There were 3 1-goal games among the 6 already. So this is going to be really, really something. 79 points for Athens, 81 points for Monroe. We'll see what happens as far as, if the team's split, or if there's overtimes involved. That could change how many points each game's worth. But I think one possible edge for Monroe, besides being at home, is the fact that their power play is pretty good, 23%. And Athens, the penalty kill is not bad. 80.1 is not bad. But when you compare it to Monroe being at 87.7%, the special teams, it's going to be a little bit more difficult, I think, for Athens to score than it would be for Monroe. Now, a couple of players that I think are going to be a big factor in these games. For Athens, Eric Neely, when he's on, he's really on, and he's got himself 41 points on the year already, 16 goals, 25 assists. Now for Monroe, Carlos Fanaras, he's been not exactly quiet lately, but he hasn't been scoring as much as he was earlier this year. But when he puts pucks on the net, good things happen. He's got a 21% shot percentage, so that's excellent. If he is able to get some open space and get some good looks, that could be a big part of the series. Now, Monroe is playing 3 games this weekend, 2 against Athens, and then they'll finish up on Sunday. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But there are 4 teams that are playing 3 games this weekend. I've marked them with the little blue dots here. So this is definitely the series to watch. It's going to be something. The other series that I think is extremely interesting is just by nature of where they fall in with the standings is the Thunderbirds and the Ice Cats. 1 point separating these two. They're both fighting it out for that last playoff spot in the Continental Division. 8 previous meetings, and the Thunderbirds have won 6. As a matter of fact, the Thunderbirds have won the last 4 meetings between these two teams. Head-to-head, the Thunderbirds have outscored the Ice Cats by 30-24 margin. But okay, 32 goals or 30 goals in 8 games. You know, neither of these teams are scoring a ton of goals on each other. So this is going to be really, really interesting, though. And this is a 3-3. They play Friday and Saturday at 7:15, and then Sunday at 3:15. All games in the Florence Center. So we'll see. Now, I alluded to neither team is lighting it up as far as offense. 3.3 goals per game here, 3.5 for a PD. So these are going to be, I think, tighter games. I think you're going to be seeing games that are like 4-3. I don't think you're going to see an 8-2 game this weekend between these two. I think it's going to be very, very tight, lower scoring. Maybe somebody breaks out, has a good day, and puts up 5 goals. We'll see. But the keys here are the goaltenders. Boris Batic, he has been lights out. A 331 at goals against. He's got 914 save percentage and a shutout. Rutherford 3-5 since he joined the PD Ice Cats. He had a couple of losses with Indiana early this year. 4.14 goals against and a 900 save percentage. He also has a shutout. So I think the goaltenders are really going to be a big key for this matchup. Whoever is able to stand on their head a little bit better, you know, make the big save, maybe one more than the other. I think that's what's going to decide the series. But yeah, three games, and well, we can't even say 3 nights because we got a Sunday afternoon game. So this is going to be a really big matchup, and you know, we could have somebody taking a big lead in that battle for 4th place, or you know, they're pretty much where they are now, you know, just a point or 2 apart. So it's going to be a really great series. All right, let me touch on some of these other series. I won't say they're lesser series, but these two are the big ones as far as interest. All right, so Topeka, they're another team that's playing 3 games. They're playing 2 in Biloxi, and then they'll move on to Monroe. So yeah, we have Biloxi. Very strange. There are 6 wins this year. 3 against Baton Rouge, 3 against Topeka. That's it. So you know, you think, oh well, you know, Biloxi's not playing well, and they haven't been, but they've grabbed 3 wins in 8 games. So this isn't just a given. Oh, you know, Topeka's got this easily. It's going to be a battle. Neither team here either is scoring a whole lot. Defense is the calling card for Topeka. Defense is not the calling card for the Breakers, unfortunately. The goal differential you see here, the Scarecrows have scored 14 more goals than they've given up. The difference for the Breakers is -102. Some key players, I think, in this series are a couple of former teammates. As a matter of fact, line mates from Motor City. Scotty Koash, he's been kind of quiet lately. He's due to break out and have a big game or two. We really haven't seen a whole lot out of him with offensive production. Now he's out there, he's doing the little stuff. He's digging in the corners and setting up plays and whatnot, but we haven't seen him on the score sheet a whole lot. Declan Conway, just off of the IR. He played this last weekend, but right now he's probably the best offensive player that Biloxi has. So both of these players could play a very big part in that series. Moving on, looking at number 1 versus number 2, Binghamton versus Port Huron, a battle of the top 2 teams in the Empire, although they are separated by 30-some points right now. But these 2 teams, they've got a healthy dislike for each other. They play hard, they play physical. You never know what you're going to get. We've had a 4-1 win by the Prowlers. We've had a 9-1 win by Binghamton earlier in the year. 3 of the 4 matchups Binghamton has won, outscoring Port Huron 18-9. The special teams, not exactly something that the Prowlers have as an advantage. They spend a lot of time in the box, and so that's not going to hurt them, most likely. Their penalty kill is pretty good, but if their thinking is let's draw Binghamton into the box and get them shorthanded, well, you're not going to do much with 13% on the power play versus an 89% penalty kill. CJ Stubbs, let's see if he can keep rolling. He's just been really hot lately. He's up to 75 points in the year. Bobby Price, my goodness, the last 2 weeks that the Prowlers have played, because of course last week they were idle. The last 2 weeks that Prowlers were in action, Price was phenomenal. And he's got a really, really quick shot. So he could end up contributing big time offensively. Watertown and Blue Ridge, this is kind of a hard one to figure out. In the 3 meetings before, Watertown has won 2. Those games were also down in Blue Ridge. But yeah, 15 goals scored in 3 games. The Bobcats, I think, have improved defensively over the last couple of weeks. They've definitely improved offensively, but you got to wonder, is this going to be another weekend where you have like 6-5 games, or is it going to be a little bit more defensively focused? It's hard to figure that out right now. Watertown trying to gain some ground on the Bobcats. Bobcats are currently in 4th in the Empire. 7-1-2 in their last 10. Watertown, not great, not terrible. 3-4-3 in their last 10. I think the big players here, Yefim Mishkin, especially on the power play. He just seems to come up with really big goals at really big times, really important moments. And then Dustin Jasso, he's been on a tear lately. 14 goals in, I believe, 12 games for the Bobcats since he got traded there. So we will see how this plays out, but it's kind of hard, like I said, to really get a good beat on how this is going to turn out. You'll notice I'm not making predictions here as I'm doing this. This is just previews, a little glimpse into these games. We've got the Indiana Sentinels making the short trip from Binghamton, where they're holding up. They've been holding up this week rather than back and forth. Indiana and back again. They decided to just kind of chill out, stay in New York for a while. Get some practices in. They got some ice time, and so hopefully they'll be better rested, better conditioned for the matchups against the Hat-Tricks. Now, these two teams met very early in the season when Indiana was just in absolute disarray. That is not the case now. This was pre-Everett Thompson. So, yeah, 2 wins for Danbury, and 15-4 was the goal tally with that weekend. But Indiana's a lot different right now, and so are the Hat-Tricks. Both of these teams have gone through a lot of roster changes throughout the year. Right now, Ethan Esposito, I feel, is Indiana's best player overall. He might not score the most goals, but he really carries the play. He always brings a high level of energy. He brings grit. He brings speed. He's got a little bit of everything. And Anton Rubtsov, he's been the guy since appearing with the Hat-Tricks. He's been the one that has really just kind of turned it on. And make sure that's on. Not to be negative on either team, but some low points. Indiana only averaging 2.7 goals per game right now. They need some more offense. They're a very young team. For the Hat-Tricks, their power play has never gotten going this year. When they have the man advantage, they're just not doing a whole lot with it. Only 13.4%. And the power play, which is, I believe, that is 13th in the league right now. All right, so then we go to the Zydeco traveling to Columbus. Zydeco, fresh off that big win over Monroe, plus a win over Biloxi. So they've got a 2-game winning streak going on right now. But Columbus, it's been tough for them. 4 previous meetings, Columbus has won all 4, outscoring the Zydeco 22-8. And Columbus is red hot right now with that 8-game heater. So, I've hammered about the Zydeco and how few goals are scoring. Well, I wanted to mention their goals against. Haven't mentioned that 3.9, which isn't fantastic, but it's not bad. The Zydeco play pretty well defensively, and not just the D-men, but the whole team. So, they could potentially slow down Columbus a little bit. A lot of it's going to depend on Connor Green. Connor Green has been spectacular this year. He only has a 2-9-4 record, but he's got a 3.34 goals against, which is under team's goals allowed. And you've also got a 912 save percentage. So fantastic. Columbus, as Tyler Barrow goes, in large part, so goes the River Dragons. So we'll see what kind of weekend that he has. Obviously, he's coming off of 2 hat-tricks in a row this last weekend. We'll see what he does this upcoming weekend. And then our final game of the whole weekend, Sunday afternoon, Topeka travels to Monroe. It's not a far travel from Biloxi. So we'll wrap up the week with that. Now, Monroe, they've won all 3 of the previous matchups. They've doubled the goals. Will be more of the same this time? Well, we'll wait and see. Monroe is extremely offensively potent. 5.3 goals per game, which leads the league. Topeka, they're probably just in terms of numbers, the second best defense in the league. So it'll be interesting to see how this turns out. So there is our look at our games ahead. Why don't we switch to something kind of new for the Fed Flash Face-Off?
You've got mail.
When you control the mail, you control information.
So this is a new segment that I wanted to start trying to do, and we'll see how things go. See what kind of questions and thoughts you have. We'll share them here. All right, so I just want to go through some things that, some questions that I've gotten, some things that you've sent me, and just kind of touch on them a little bit. It's like a mailbag, only it's not actual mail. It's not like, what was it, Steve on Blue's Clues or whatever back in the day. I'm dating myself here. Anyway, okay, so some of the letters I've gotten from you, or some of the messages rather, one came from, I'll just use initials. So it's BM. Do players on the IR count against roster spots? If you have 2 players out on IR, does that limit? Does that mean you have to dress 2 fewer players? No, it doesn't. Basically, you are able to keep your active 20 players plus the optional goaltender, and if you have a player on IR that is coming off IR, is becoming active, then you would have to potentially release someone else on your roster because you would be over the roster. Or, as some teams do, they just use the failed to report, which is not what it was intended to be used for. But nonetheless, follow-up question with that. This wasn't specifically asked, but it's just the touch base. How many players can you have on IR at one time? For the 15-day IR, you can have 2 players on that. In addition, if you have someone who is going to be out a while, let's just say they broke an arm, okay, and they're going to be out for like 5 weeks. Well, then you can put them on the IR rehab list, which is 30 days. Okay, so technically you could have 3 players on IR at the same time, 2 on 15-day, 1 on the rehab. Now, every now and then you'll see, like we did recently with Johnny Ruiz being listed as season-ending IR, that does not count towards your roster or any kind of limits or anything like that. Obviously, the Danbury Hat Tricks want to keep Ruiz as a part of their organization, even though he is not able to play right now. So they list season-ending IR. So he doesn't count against the roster at all. Okay, what other questions we have? We had one from TB. Asked me, are there any rules regarding Fed teams reporting transactions? Not really. The way that everything is set up, it's supposed to be, let's say you signed a player, it should get put into the internal Fed system. They have like an inter-Fed interweb system or internet system that is kept internally. They would go on their file with the league officials. Hey, we're signing Joe Schmo today. And then it would appear on your transactions list. Unfortunately, that has not been happening this year. For whatever reasons, there's been a real lack of communication this year between teams and the league. So sometimes we see transactions listed, sometimes we don't, particularly when someone is called up to like the ECHL, or they're moving to the SP. It's not often listed. Usually right now the best bet is whatever your favorite team's Facebook page is, keep tabs on that, because they'll keep you up to date, and they'll say, for example, Connor McAnanima has been signed by the Peoria Rivermen, or whatever. So there's not really any kind of rule or regulation. Teams are supposed to do their due diligence and report things within 24 hours. But again, it's just it's not translating well. So there's really not any official book or rule with that. Okay, DG asked me, is there any update on Motor City Rockers returning? Last thing we knew was back in May. Of course, they were no longer able to continue as an active member. They filed for dormancy with the league, which means they're still a member in good standing with the FPHL. They're paying league dues. They're just not actively playing on the ice. What is coming up for this next year? The reason why they went dormant is because they were no longer able to play at Big Boy Arena where they were playing before in Fraser, Michigan. So what's the status? Well, we don't know. We were hoping to get an announcement back before the end of November, and it just hasn't happened. I have reached out to owner Ken Andrews. I have not heard back yet, so when I hear something, I'll let you know. But right now, can't really give you a definitive answer as we don't have one. The plan is for the Rockers to return for next season. Whether all the T's have been crossed and I's dotted, I don't know. All right, JJ said this year, how many call-ups has there been to the ECHL comparing the SPHL and the Fed? In years past, 90%, I'd say, of call-ups that would happen to the ECHL from the single A level came from the SPHL. And every now and then you would have a few Fed players sprinkled in. I think we had maybe 6 or 7 players from the FPHL get an ECHL call-up last year. This season, that number is way up. And a lot of ECHL teams have built relationships with Fed teams. And so whether it's for just one game or maybe for a 4 or 5 game stint to cover somebody's injury, now they're starting to turn to the Fed. Hey, do you have a player that we can have for a few games? I would say just an estimate, a rough estimate, probably the call-ups from the SPHL has comprised about 70% of the call-ups, the other 30% being from the Fed, but that has increased quite a bit. So that's a good sign. That's a very promising sign at that point. Okay, DT asked me, do I have any jerseys or merchandise for sale? You've seen me wear my Fed League Flash jersey, which I had specially made just for myself. At this point, no. I have looked into possibly offering some things available for sale, but the initial investment that would be required right now, plus setting everything up financially, I don't have the time or ability or the resources right now. Maybe in the future, we'll have to wait and see. But no, I'm sorry, I don't have anything for sale. I'm glad that you like the jersey and the shirts that I have. But yeah, at this point, nothing for sale. Final question. RB asked, how does it work if 2 teams agree to a trade, but a player doesn't want to go? That's not an easy question to answer. It should be, but basically, protections need to be kind of built in. And oftentimes, a lot of the transactions you see this year are player so-and-so for financial considerations. In that kind of a scenario, it could easily be written into the agreement that if requested player does not want to report to the new team, that the financial considerations would be null and void. But in the situation where you have a player for a player, and maybe the one player goes from team A to team B and say, yeah, sure, I'll play for team B. The guy coming from team B to team A says, no, I'm not playing for team A. I don't know. That's a darn good question, though, and one that I'm going to have to dig into a little bit and find more answers. So at this point, I'm not ashamed to say I don't know, because I'm not going to give you a wrong answer or something that's intentionally false. So that's a good question to kind of put on the back burner, and we'll kind of look into it. There's a possibility, too, that when the league meetings take place every year, late in May, early June, maybe that's one of the things that's addressed by all the people present. One thing that they'll want to get some clarity on and kind of get a guideline set for. Who knows? All right, so that's it for today's mailbag. If you've got a question, you can contact me one of two ways. First, you can contact me by Facebook Messenger. That's what most of you have done. Just search for the Fed League Flash and hit message and send me the message, and I'll do my best to get back to you as quickly as possible, and maybe even read your question here on the Fed Flash Face-Off. Also, you can contact me by email. My email address is fedflash15, the number 15, at gmail.com. Again, that's fedflash15 at gmail.com. Thank you so much for your questions and for your inquiries and your interest. Very much appreciate it. All right, so got some new things to present to you here on our news and notes segment. Of course, we always have news and notes. It's the regular part of every Fed Flash Face-Off show. Always will be. As you see, I have nothing written down here on the old trusty whiteboard because we're going to modernize just a little bit. Presto. All right, so let's start by talking about the Minnesota Northern Lights, the expansion team that will start play this upcoming October for the 2026-27 season. All right, they had an open house at the Ralph Engelstad Arena. They're in Thief River Falls, Minnesota. I have to really concentrate saying Thief River Falls. I don't know why, but I do. So that's why it comes out so deliberately. Nonetheless, they had their open house. They're selling season tickets. All right, they already have corporate sponsorships, as I've talked about in the past. So logistically, this team is off to a very good start. Yes, there's no players yet. Haven't named the head coach yet, but things are coming together. The staff is doing a wonderful job handling things and putting things together and working with the Ralph Engelstad Arena management team. And so, yeah, they had their open house this last Saturday, sold some season tickets. I don't know how many, but there were people there that showed up. Also, they are selling tickets for the showcase games that are taking place on March 27th and 28th. Now, if you just for some strange reason have the Fed webpage up right there in your possession there, you would notice that on the schedule originally, those games were going to be Topeka versus Indiana in Indiana. Okay, those two teams are still playing, but now the games are being played in Minnesota instead to get the community hyped up for next year. Now I know in Indiana fans, you're saying, that stinks. We lose a couple home games. Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that, you're not going to be able to go down to the rink those 2 days and watch your Sentinels, right there in the arena. But you will be able to watch on YouTube, as Indiana is going to be considered the home team. So whatever attendance statistics come through, that'll factor into the Indiana team numbers. A good portion of the ticket sales will benefit specifically Indiana. They'll go to the um, team and to the organization. So tickets are $14 for adults and $12 for kids 12 and under for seats at the Ralph. Very, very reasonably priced. And again, it's a very nice arena, seats about 3,600 people. So yeah, a lot of excitement brewing in Minnesota for the upcoming games in March, plus for next season when the Northern Lights take to the ice. All right, we have a contest as well. Name the Moose mascot. You can go to the Minnesota Northern Lights Facebook page. I think it's another week or so that they're going to be having this contest. You have a chance at winning tickets for a game there at the Ralph, or some merchandise from the team if your suggestion is chosen. So yeah, go ahead and participate. And what do you think? I know a couple of people, including myself initially, thought Bullwinkle, but I don't think so. Anyway, so that's a look at that. All right, talking about expansion and new teams. Remember the Dakota Ghost Drillers that we talked about briefly? I believe it was maybe last April or last May. There was a group that was interested in bringing FPHL hockey to Williston, North Dakota. Now, that is kind of the western part of the state. 6.5-hour trip from Thief River Falls, Minnesota. So logistically now, you could do it. Only one problem. Pretty much, as far as I can tell, I've done some digging over the last couple of weeks, and it appears that this idea has kind of died off. The group that was interested in presenting this new team, proposed new team to the Fed, was called Canyon Sports Group LLC, out of Salt Lake City, Utah. They were proposing starting off with the Ghost Drillers and then potentially looking at other markets as well, owning maybe like 3 or 4 teams. Unfortunately, just things haven't really come together on either the city's end or the Canyons end either. It looks like Canyon Sports Group LLC has decided to focus on its primary business, which is selling skiing and snowboarding equipment. So it doesn't look like right now that they are still actively pursuing bringing a team to the FPHL. Complicating that matter was the fact that the one arena that was in Williston has been permanently closed. And the other facility that's there, it's there. It's going to get transformed. It currently seats 2,000, which isn't ideal. You'd like to see an arena with bigger capacity. And people go, well, we have Watertown, we have Indiana right now. What's wrong with a 2,000 seat arena? The city has decided that they're going to invest a lot of money in taking that rink and transforming it into a complex that has 2 or 3 sheets of ice. The problem is this is going to be, that's not a problem for Williston. Their focus is on the community involvement, having the facility available for high school sports, for youth hockey. They're not really looking at bringing in a professional team at this time. So even if you had access to the facility, getting dates for a proposed new team would be very, very difficult. the ghost drillers would not be the primary or sole tenant. So that complicated that. Also complicating things is once this renovation is done, which won't be completed until the 2028 season now, is the fact that the seating for the arena, the largest sheet of ice, would only be about 600. So again, this is the city wants to focus specifically on the budding youth sports program in that area. Williston is a growing city, but it is small. It's about 29,000 people. And so they want to focus on the people right there. So it looks like, at least for now, the Dakota Ghost Drillers are on the shelf. So if something changes, we'll be sure to let you know. But at this point, it does not look like it's going to be happening. All right, next news item. I wanted to talk for just a moment about playoff eligibility for the FPHL players, because playoffs are now just 9 weeks away. And some people have asked me to kind of review that, so we're going to do that here. So for a player to be eligible to play in the playoffs, they have had to have played in 15 games. Now, caveat on that, goaltender. If you're the backup goaltender and your name is on the game score sheet, even if you don't take to the ice, that counts as a game for goaltenders. But you have to dress and be listed on the game sheets for 15 games. All right. We're starting to run out of time. Most teams have anywhere from 18 to 25 games left. So if you're going to make sure that you have your eligible roster available, you got to make sure that everybody gets their games in now. Now, in addition to that, there is also the college and juniors signees that start happening towards the end of February, early March. We'll probably start seeing some signings in maybe just another couple weeks. And when you see them signed and you go to their status, like if you see John French, just making up a name, signed by the Twin City Thunderbirds, go to, you click on John French, and then you would look at his bio and you would see he'd be listed as Rookie C or Junior C. All right. I'm sorry, C. That's college. I'm sorry, I got that backwards. It would be Rookie C or Rookie J. J for juniors. So that's how it would be listed. And they would be able to play games. They'd have to play in at least 5 games to be playoff eligible. And you can sign up to 5 college or juniors players per roster, and they will not count against your current roster. Remember, the roster limit is supposed to be 20 plus the optional third goaltender. All right. So hypothetically, if you play things right, you can have 25 plus 1 once you get to, it's towards the end of the month in which the eligibility for these college and juniors players to join teams, that's when it would become in effect. So again, 5 games for them to be eligible, 15 for all your other players. Okay, the next subject, and I'm only going to briefly touch on this. I'm going to mention it. I'm going to tease this for next week. All right, the SPHL announced on Tuesday that they are changing their playoff format for this upcoming year in the playoffs. Why am I talking about the SPHL? Uno momento. So in the past years, it's just been all playoff series in the SPHL were best 2 out of 3, like the Fed has in their first and second rounds. Now it's best 2 out of 3 in the first round and 3 out of 5 for the division finals. Well, they don't have division finals. It's all one division. So the second round, the semifinals, and then the President's Cup finals. Those will be best of 5 rounds. Now, the SPHL is able to do that because most of the arenas that they have teams in, they're the primary tenants. So that's not really the case in the FPHL. You have, for example, I'm using the Columbus River Dragons. All right, they're obviously a regular tenant of the Columbus Civic Center, but they are not the primary tenant. They're not the only tenant. And the ice gets pulled out on a certain date. The city of Columbus is adamant about that because the arena is used for graduation ceremonies and a lot of other events. So that makes this possibility of expanding the playoffs a little more difficult for the Fed. But should the Fed follow suit? And if so, well, how do we logistically go about doing it in a way that would work? So we're going to talk about this next Fed Flash Face-Off next week on the Flash Chat segment. All right, and we're going to look at everything. So stay tuned for that. All right, just wanted to mention that. Now we move on. Want to close out this segment with some attendance numbers, giving you an attendance update because we're 2/3 of the way through the season. The last time I gave you an update on how the attendance was doing this so far this year, it was about the 1/3 mark. Now we're at the 2/3 mark. So are we going to hit 1 million? That's the $1 million question. That was redundant, wasn't it? Anyway, so it's $1 per person. It's very likely, very, very likely. Right now, as we run through the attendance numbers, there are 5 teams in the league that are drawing at least 4,000 fans per game. Columbus is just on the cusp of 100,000 fans. They are currently about 50 fans short of averaging the number that you would need to get to 100,000. To get to 100,000 in 28 games, you need to average 3,571 fans per game. And Columbus is just shy of that. Their average is 3,568. That's 3 fans, 17 dates played. That's 51 fans that they're short. So if they pick it up just a little bit, they could also cross that 100,000 fans drawn by the end of the year, which is great. The league-wide, you got 9 teams, 9 out of 14 that are drawing and averaging over 2,000 fans per game, and that is great. So as we look at the total numbers, because you're going, well, are we getting to the million or not? Yeah, you're stalling here. No, I've got the numbers here. So far to this point, the FPHL has drawn in attendance 683,057 fans. Break that down into 247 games that are played. That gives you an average of 2,765 fans per game. In order to reach the million mark, the average drawn out over the entire season, all 392 games, the average would have to be 2,551. So we are already 214 per game above that. If we keep going at this pace, as the FPHL continues to draw fans like it is right now, over the course of the full season, the total attendance at the end of the year would be 1,083,880 fans. That would be awesome. That would be the first year that the league has crossed the 1 million fan mark. Last year they drew 905,000. So this is excellent. We had 14 teams last year. We have 14 teams this year. So that shows some growth in attendance. So there you go. That is the latest in the attendance numbers. Things are looking good. So keep going to the games. Keep supporting your team. And that is the end of today's show. Thank you again so much for tuning in and for watching, whether you watched the whole thing or just a part of it or a couple parts of it. I deeply appreciate it. And that's what the show is here for you to enjoy whatever you'd like. All right, so don't forget to follow me on Facebook. If you haven't already, go to Facebook, search for the Fed League Flash, and make sure to follow me there, because as news happens, as things come across the line, I post it there first, and then we talk about it in a lot more detail here on YouTube. Always, please like, subscribe, share the videos. And also, you can follow me on my WordPress page as well. That is fedleagueflash9.wordpress.com. Thank you again so much for tuning in. Make sure to tune in next week, especially for Flash Chat and everything else that we'll have lined up for you on next week's edition of the Fed Flash Face-Off. Of course, we'll have game summaries this Saturday and Sunday, as well as the games get completed. So again, I appreciate all your support and all of you guys watching. Have yourselves an excellent week, and we'll see you next time right here on the Fed League Flash's Fed Flash Face-Off. Until next time, keep your head up, keep your stick on the ice, and be excellent to each other.